We start our psychosis show, Psychosis. Before we start that special announcement, just want to take a minute out. I launched a podcast episode today. I'm so excited, and it's microdosing. It's an incredible episode. Check it out. Okay, Medical Medium at Apple Podcast. Check it out if you get a chance. Link is in the description, in the bio. So I haven't put out a podcast episode in a long time. It's been quite a while. I know a lot of you guys rely on the podcast. There's so much powerful health information, plus meditations and so much. But I wanted to start off with a microdosing episode because, it's important for a lot of people to know about that information. I think you're going to be blown away, mind blown. It's going to be a great episode. Check it out when you get a chance. That's one announcement. Okay, hold on. Second announcement. Okay, I was on Nicole Lappin's podcast. Link in the profile, link in the description. I'm excited. She's an amazing person, an incredible podcast. So check that out if you get a chance. So look into that. Link is in the description. Link is in the bio. All right, so I was in Nicole Lappin's podcast. It's an episode. It's incredible. Hazeling said, "Oh my God, hi. I was just listening to your new podcast. Mind-blowing." It's crazy. I mean, it's really a good one. All right, the podcast was so phenomenal. You heard it too? Thank you. It's all SOC though. I'm just trying to deliver the information. I can't take too much credit. Jake Davis said, "So excited to listen to the new podcast." Yeah. New podcast episode. Come on. You guys, if you're coming on right now, we're doing a show about psychosis, so I'm going into Brain Saver. I'm going to talk about it because a lot of people deal with low levels of psychosis. It's really difficult. People struggle mentally, emotionally. Okay, so that's the second announcement. Third announcement, check out my Telegram. I've been putting out really important details, critical information, so you might want to check that out, my Telegram, okay? So go there, listen if you get a chance. You may be somebody that was really affected by false information out there and falsities and me being framed and it's all lies and everything else. You actually might be somebody that's affected by that. So I have to put out the details and set the record straight for anybody in the community that had their head twisted, just twisted up with all the BS and lies and everything. So I wanted to make sure I'm releasing a little bit of really powerful information on Telegram. So I just released some yesterday. So check it out when you get a chance. If you're somebody that's been affected and been harmed, because a lot of people in the community now for 4 years have been harmed, we know we've gotten the messages. We've gotten the information about how much they've been harmed. It's actually really scary. They've stopped working with their doctors. They stopped working with Info. They stopped, liking themselves. They started hating themselves. I've seen it all. They were just so hurt and so confused by the falsities and the false stories and the lies that it has stopped a lot of people from their healing. It's changed the course of a lot of people's lives in the community, and a lot of people are documenting it now, and they're giving us that documented information, and it's frightening, absolutely frightening. And so I'm going to set the record straight for the community. Very important. So on Telegram, that's what I've been doing. If you're interested, that's what I've been doing on Telegram. Very important. That's the third announcement before we go into the psychosis talk out of Brain Saver. Third announcement, just to rewind. First announcement, I released a new podcast episode, microdosing. Check it out, Medical Medium Podcast at Apple Podcast. You can go there and see it, okay? And it's really cool, all right? It's about psychedelics and so forth and all that. And then, it's about microdosing, all that stuff. And then I was on Nicole Lappin's podcast. How incredible. Money Rehab. So it's her Money Rehab podcast. Nicole Lappin. Link is in the profile. Link is in the description. So that's a really interesting episode. You have to listen to it. And third, Telegram to set the record straight. Please check that out. Unbelievable what's going on. Anyway, you guys, let's get started. All right? I'm excited. I'm going to pull my little board over. I might do a little bit of some board work if you guys are okay with that. All right. Very important information, I got to tell you guys. A lot of people are struggling with psychosis. And, they blame themselves. They think it's their fault. They think it's they're bad people. They think something's wrong with them. And a lot of people end up struggling even more because of it, because now they hate themselves. Now they think they're causing it. Now they think they're the problem. Neurosis, psychosis, OCD, mania, severe depression, anxiety, all of it, all boggled up and, all kind of added together and bundled up in one thing. So many people deal with that, right? School. School. I saw that coming up on IG. All right. So let's go into it a little bit. Psychosis can occur at many different levels. An extreme situation is when someone becomes completely disconnected from their surroundings, right? An extreme situation where now they're just like, they don't know who they are. They're completely manic. They're actually delusional. They're hallucinating. That does happen to a lot of people. It's rising right now. It's just in the US alone, never mind worldwide. Psychosis is rising when it's extreme. But we're going to talk about the less extreme. We're talking about the mild varieties and all that. But for extreme varieties of psychosis happening right now in this country and around the world, so much of that's going on where they don't even know where they are. They don't know their surroundings. There was a story out there. Some guy just ran naked through an airport, whatever. He ended up dying inside of some kind of jet airplane engine or something. And you see this stuff out there all the time where they just, all of a sudden, something like goes on in the brain and boom, they're just blasting off. So, and I'm not talking about like mind-altering drugs and stuff like that. And I'm not talking about pharmaceuticals and stuff like that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about where they're just living their life. Everything seems to be going okay. And then pop, something goes off. Like pop, something just happens internally. And they're into a bout of psychosis. Now, it doesn't always happen like that where you're living your life and you're going along and everything's fine and everything's dandy. And then boom, right? It doesn't always do that. It also has a slow build-up. Where someone's struggling a little bit. They got emotional struggles. They got the depression, they got the anxiety, they're struggling. Then with that, they got the bipolar a little bit, real ups and downs. They've got the anger, the frustration, and the anger and the sadness and all of that. And then they're hating themselves. They're hating themselves like nobody could ever even understand, because no one understands what they're feeling. Nobody understands what they're going through. And they're seeing their psychiatrists, and seeing their therapists, they're seeing their psychoanalysts, and they're seeing their coaches, and they're seeing all their different health professionals everywhere. And they're like, I'm really struggling. I got so much going on. And then the OCD can kick in. And then back to depression. Then back to anxiety. Then it's up, it's down. And then they're struggling. Then they're level just for a little bit. And then boom, a panic attack comes. And then they're just level a little bit. And then they lose a complete night's sleep. And now they're not sleeping good. They get 2 hours a night here, 4 hours a night here. They can't get that 8 hours of sleep. They can't get that 7 hours of sleep or 10 hours of sleep. I noticed on another note, all the influencers, right, who don't have to work for a living, the ones that came for money, they can sleep 12 hours a night. 12 hours a night. Don't wake me up, okay, because I'm going to get my beauty sleep and sleep a whole 12 hours and wake up whenever I feel like it in the morning, because I got a trust fund and everything else, and it really doesn't matter, and I'm all set, and let me go now on social media and do something, because I want to do something on social media. Whatever. Not talking about that. I'm talking about people who are actually getting 4 hours sleep, 3 hours of sleep, 5 hours of sleep. And people who have to work for a living, people who have to survive, people who have to, live life, and they're stuck with this psychosis, they're stuck with neurosis. They get blamed for being neurotic, they get blamed for being extra sensitive, they get called terrible names, they struggle. You guys, happens all the time. I see it out there. So many emotional struggles. You guys know what I'm talking about. So much is happening out there. Okay? Yeah, I got the whiteboard. Let's see if I could make a mess on the whiteboard. Let's see if I can. If we're keeping drugs out of the equation to explain this whole thing, whether prescribed pharmaceuticals, right, or not, the other explanation is developing illness inside. So I wanted to talk about a couple of things. People are developing problems inside. And illness inside is developing. That's what leads us to so many emotional struggles. It's an illness developing in the mind, the brain, in here, okay? Really in the brain tissue. Then from there it transfers to the ghost. So I want to just do a little bit here. All right. So you got your, hopefully you can see this. I got new markers. Okay. So you got your brain, right? There's your brain. Just squiggly brain. All right. So that's your brain. Can you see that? All right. That's your physical brain. And what happens is we get an illness internally in that physical brain. We get an illness developing. Something's wrong with that brain. Something's developing in there. Okay? And as we do that, we now have a physical problem with our brain. It's real. We're struggling. Anxiety, depression, OCD, bipolar, okay? Mania, psychosis, neurosis, sadness, guilt that's unexplainable, all of it. A mental struggle, all of it. There's some type of illness developing in the brain. Physical, okay? Stop blaming it on yourself. It's physical, right? Of course, we can have emotional struggles. Of course, we can have all kinds of different problems with emotional struggles. Of course. There's so much abuse that happens in so many people's lives. There's all kinds of psychological torture, psychological warfare on people, in people's lives. There's bad relationships, all of this, right? But that adds to it, right? There's trauma, there's struggles, that adds to it. It's like we have something physical brewing in the brain, creating things. Our anxiety, the depression, the dementia, the Alzheimer's, the memory loss, the brain fog, the neurosis, the psychosis, the mania, the bipolar, the OCD, even the mildest versions of all that, the ADHD, all of it. Something's brewing in the brain. Something is developing physically. And then, take an emotional struggle, take a bad relationship, take a bad partner, take something that happened to you, take a wrongdoing that happened to you. Totally misunderstood, totally betrayed. You got a knife in your back, all of it. Take all that, and then it compels onto also the physical part. So now you're at the therapist, now you're at the psychiatrist. Now you're looking for help. And you got two things going on. The therapist doesn't know, the psychiatrist doesn't know. They don't know you actually also have a physical problem going on in the brain. And then they're focused on the emotional problem, right? They're focused on the emotional stuff. Hey, you were betrayed. You were misunderstood. People didn't understand you. Something happened to you. You were abused. Something went on, right? You got that. But you also got the physical. Are you guys with me on this? So get this, right? There's the physical, and then there's the ghost. And then there is the ghost. Yep. Here's the ghost. That's the ghost. What is that? I'm going to radiate that out a little bit. That's the ghost that lives inside your head. That's your soul. That is it right there. That's your physical brain. And here is the non-physical. Call it metaphysical, call it spiritual, call it whatever you like. Call it ghost. Whatever, that is your spirit, if that's what you want to say. That is your soul. That is your physical. On the physical side, you got things developing. You got problems going on. Something's happening inside here. We're going to talk about the different things. Metaphysically, you got your ghost right here. Okay? What happens is these interact. When we have problems emotionally that are also problems physically, there's an interaction that occurs. This is where the lines are so crossed or blurred or however you want to say it or see it. This is why people struggle forever, for years. They're working on things. They're going here, they're going there. They're signing up to these programs here for their mental. They're doing affirmations. They're going to this therapist. They're going to this coach. They're going everywhere because they think, hey, it's all emotional. I can tackle this. I can fix this. I can turn this around. Then they're struggling for 6 months. They're a little better. 3 months later, they get triggered. Boom, back into it. They're struggling. Now to another therapist. Now to another psychiatrist. Now to another coach. Now doing another program. Now doing another course. Whatever it is. And then now you're here online here, you're here online there, you're finding all this information. You're like, I could beat this. Okay, I'm getting a little better again. I'm changing my life a little bit. I'm starting to spend more time, quality time with myself. I'm doing all this. And boom, you're down again. You're down again. You got triggered. Ooh, you got triggered into it. All over again. And so what happens is, what people don't realize is, because something's happening in here physically, inside the brain. And then we go along and we're trying to remedy it here. We're trying to fix the ghost. We're trying to fix the soul. We're trying to fix our spirit. We're trying to fix our emotional aspect of us. The ghost that lives in here. And they live together. See this right here? Okay? I'm putting the ghost in here too. Right? Because that's what happens. And something I want to bring up, which is really, really incredible information. All right? When you go through a trauma or a struggle, it could be small to someone, large to you, or you go through some kind of emotional bad news, or you've been betrayed really bad, or maybe some abuse happened, or whatever it is, maybe psychological warfare, maybe psychic attacks, whatever it is. What happens is, maybe just something occurred, like a car accident. Maybe it's something like that, where it's black and white in the moment. What happens is your soul exits your physical brain. It exits your physical brain. That's why you'll hear people say, I've talked about this before, where I was looking at myself while that was happening in that moment. I got that bad news and it was like I was out of body. I was out of my body. Yeah, because you were. It felt like an out-of-body experience. It really did. It felt like I was out of body, man. I was looking down at myself. I was looking at myself. I didn't even know where I was. I just saw myself. I was knocked out of myself. Because what happened while you were struggling, while that struggle happened, while something occurred, while you got that bad news, while you were traumatized, while you had that betrayal, while something happened to you. I hear it when people cheat on people, when relationships. It's that moment you find out you've been cheated on. It's that moment you found out you were betrayed. So many people, what happens is instantly in that moment, their soul leaves their physical brain. It goes boom, and it's out of body. It's over here on the side. It's over here. It's over here. It's over here. It gets knocked out of you. Your soul gets knocked out of you. That's how it works. Bad news? Boom. Oh, out of body. There's a reason for that. Because what happens right here in your physical brain is stuff starts to heat up and burn up. The emotional centers of the brain start to get heated up and burn up. See the emotional centers of the brain right here? They start to get heated up and burn up. And the soul has to leave so you don't get soul damage, severe soul damage. And that's what happens to so many people. They get soul injuries, but they go out of body to try to prevent severe soul injuries, right? So their soul, the ghost, pops right out. It gets knocked right out. You just found out you got cheated on? Someone just told a huge lie about you? You were betrayed? Someone abused you out of nowhere? Maybe it's long-term abuse and you're so allergic to the bad people, you're so allergic to the bad situation that literally your soul lives outside of your body. And now you got depersonalization that's actually not necessarily physical anymore. You got that depersonalization. Your soul is living outside of your body. And most people are walking around while their soul is outside of their body. And that's the ghost, and it sits outside of the body. And say you didn't have a really difficult situation, something didn't really happen that's really grave or bad, didn't get that bad news or that bad betrayal or whatever it is, and you're struggling because your brain is dirty. It's got junk and garbage in it. Your brain has got junk and garbage in it. Solvents, petrochemicals, toxic heavy metals. So it's got solvents, chemicals, toxic heavy metals in here, right? I'm putting little markers, deposits of toxic heavy metals, Okay? Some solvents in here too. Let's see what we can do with that. Maybe we get red for solvents. Let's do that. Solvents are in here as well. We got the red, we got the black, right? The toxic heavy metals, the red, the solvents. Okay. What happens is we got something physical brewing, something physical wrong. We got the anxiety, we got the depression, we got the depersonalization that's physical, we got the bipolar, we got the mania, we got the OCD, we got the ADHD with it all, we got the severe brain fog, we got the memory loss, we could even move into dementia, whatever, we got all that. And then we got the neurosis, then we got the psychosis, then we got the mania. Yep. Lisa, that's a really funny comment. Yeah. We got something physically going on, physically wrong in there. We do. Let's go into it a little deeper now. Problem is that our soul lives inside our physical brain, and so you have the ghost in here, and the ghost doesn't always live outside of our physical brain. Our ghost doesn't always live outside of our physical brain. Keep that in mind, okay? It doesn't normally live outside. Playing with all my new colors over here. So what happens is we go to the psychiatrist, we go to the counselor, we go to the psychotherapist, we go to the therapist, psychoanalyst, we go to try to find help, we look for coaches, we're looking for answers. We want to be coached, we want to be taught tools so we can somehow navigate with this depression and this anxiety and all our struggles and everything. But for some reason, we just can't get rid of it altogether. And even when we start doing some things for ourselves, like physically, we're taking care of ourselves better, we're eating better and all these things, and it's improving, all it takes is one nasty thing to occur, one nasty thing to happen, and then boom, we're triggered and right back in the saddle again, and now we're doing it all over again. The goal is to heal our brains physically, and then when something happens and we're triggered back into it, we start to doubt ourselves, we start to feel like we're faulty, we start to lose faith and hope in ourselves. We start thinking that it's us, it's our fault, it's your fault. We start thinking that maybe I am a bad person because everybody else seems to be living their life. Look at the person driving in the car next to me. I bet you they got a good life. I bet you they're okay. I bet you they're not struggling. Hey, look at on television right there. Those people seem like they got it all together. Hey, look at those people. They got it good too. I must have something wrong with me. I can't pull it together. I can't get past this. I can't get out of this quicksand. And I'm stuck in it. And then you doubt yourself and you judge yourself, and then others tend to judge you because you're there again. You're back to being sick again. You're back to struggling again, but it's not your fault. It is not your fault. It is not your fault. You're not a bad person. You didn't create your emotional struggle. It's not because you want to be emotional. It's not because you want to have an emotional struggle or a mental struggle. It's not because you're looking for attention. That's not it at all, because that gets thrown on everybody. You're just looking for attention. You just want that attention. You're doing this on purpose. You have a pattern. And the psychoanalyst, psychotherapist, like, you got a pattern. This is because you want this to be. And then some of the new age people will be like, you came into this world. It's because a past life, you had your head chopped off. Queen Victoria chopped it off. And so, back hundreds of years ago, and that's why you're like this. And maybe you know what, in 1920, you were driving your car and you went off a bridge and you drowned in your car, and that's why you're like this. Or, you were the chef for the king in 1603, and, you made a bad meal, and the king was mad, and they just off with your head, and you brought that over to this new place. That's right. The new age brings you into that whole thing. Or you signed a contract when you were on the other side. I'm signing a contract to come into this world and to be all messed up. I'm signing a contract. This is what I want to do. I'm up in the ether right now. I'm up in heaven right now, and I'm going to sign a contract where I'm going to come around again, yep, here's my contract. I'm going to live in a whole bunch of brain fog and a whole bunch of ADHD and a whole bunch of mania and a whole bunch of psychosis and a whole bunch of anxiety and depression and depersonalization. I'm signing into this one. Here we go. I just signed my name way up there. Way up there. I did the scrolls. Well, I'm up there. I'm looking at all the records and I'm going to sign my dotted line here. Boop, boop, boop. Going back down now. I'm going to go down here and have a whole shitty time. Boom. I get here. Wah, I wake up. Woo. Now I'm depressed and depersonalization. And all of a sudden, some new age person says, you know, you signed that contract. You brought that on yourself. You chose to come into this life to suffer like this. It's not how it works. Yes, the contracts. No disrespect to anybody's belief system. It's not it. No disrespect to any of it. I have enough hard times myself. Enough hard times. Everybody's like, oh, you talk to SOC, since you were 4 years old and everything. I get it, and I got a kick me sign on my back. I'm just saying, I'm not judging anybody for any belief system, but we're told that this is what it is and why we're struggling. We're told we signed a contract and we came back in. Yep, Uma says, oh man, I've heard that so many times about contracts. But really, I've had people that came to me 25 years ago looking for help. And they'd be like, I've been everywhere, AW. I saw this psychiatrist. I got 3 psychiatrists. I got 3 other therapists. I've tried everything under the sun. I went the New Age route, right? They told me this and this and this. I signed a contract. I came back in there. What do you think's going on here? And I'm like, well, Spirit of Compassion thinks we got something physical going on in our head. And you might want to ask the doctor this. And then they go find a doctor that'll listen to them. And the doctor's like, you know what? Something could be going on. Let's test. Spirit of Compassion never said, yeah, you signed a contract and you came in here. Yeah, you had your head chopped off, 300 years ago. Yes, you were burned at the stake because you were a witch. And the 1600s in Salem, Massachusetts. Yes, that's why. Spirit of Compassion never, ever, ever said that to anyone, anywhere, about why they're suffering, struggling emotionally. Because there's other reasons, there's other things going on. Physical things that are going on. Let's go into it a little bit. St. Sue says, AW, I'm holding on by a thread using trauma shock and lost brain shot. My daddy passed from dementia last night. Oh my God. It's a cruel disease. It truly is. I'm protecting my brain with info the best I can right now. Just know that my heart's with you truly, okay? My heart is really with you. I understand the nuances. I understand the details. And I think a lot of people don't know that, what happens when you lose a loved one from dementia, Alzheimer's, and it's not as simple. And it's not just, it's not so cut and clear. It's an agonizing process, and there's so much to it. There's so much to it. So back to this. Physically, we got things wrong with the brain. Let's go into it a little bit now, okay? You guys? All right. It usually takes something like toxic heavy metals, but not just toxic heavy metals in the brain. Not just metals in the brain that can cause problems. With psychosis, it takes also solvents, chemicals and solvents. What happens is a chemical interaction can happen inside the brain with toxic heavy metals, and a chemical reaction can happen inside the brain with lots of different things, but metals react to solvents and other chemicals and petrochemicals. And so what happens is when we get exposed to something, so say somebody has some metals inside their brain and they're already struggling, they already have problems, and then they get their carpets cleaned. And the cleaning service comes in and literally dumps solvents inside their floors from the machines. Solvents that are sitting in the floor, in the carpet, underneath the floorboard, and those solvents are in the air. They're on your skin, you're breathing them in. They're the carpet cleaning chemicals that I've seen trigger people for years. And the carpet cleaning chemicals are solvents that when they get in your sinuses and find their way into the bloodstream to your brain, they can interact with the toxic heavy metals, causing a chemical reaction that can throw somebody from a very mild case of something into, boom, some kind of psychosis or really some type of neurosis that's out of control or seemingly out of control. It's one example right there on its own. Okay? Smoking. Chemicals in smoking. You guys? Anything. Any kind of smoke. Chemicals in any kind of smoke. The fake logs that everybody burns at this time of year. The fake logs that are completely soaked and saturated with chemicals. Like fragrances and petrochemicals and solvents. Right there. Anything that someone is smoking on top of that, along with breathing in smoke that's burning in a fire pit. A lot of people burn treated wood in fire pits, and the treated wood has solvents on it. It's saturated in solvents. You ever see a piece of treated wood? A piece of treated wood actually has green. You know the green color that's on the wood? Get a 2x4, 2x6, right? Whatever it is that you're getting, treated wood. A lot of people take treated wood and they burn it in their backyard. They burn it in their fire pits. They burn it in posh areas that are really expensive to live, where rich people live, and they burn it where people that don't have resources and don't have a lot of money live. They burn it there too. They burn it everywhere. And that's a massive trigger for a lot of people, where you breathe in that smoke. Could be anything. Something you're smoking, something you're breathing in. Big trigger for all kinds of levels of anxiety and depression, but to up it into psychosis eventually. Christine says, Osgood says, please talk about the laundry scents. They are out of control. I broke the news to the world about the fragrances and the laundry detergents and the fabric softeners and the plugins and all the different fragrances and the colognes and perfumes, and everybody punished me greatly. I mean, seriously. Like, they were trying to cancel me a while back. I mean, it's just like years ago. They're doing everything they could on social to cancel me. Because people love their scented candles. They love their fake logs. They love their fabric softener sheets. And it'd be crazy. Because you'd see on social media all these people, right? They would be like, yo, I'm on social. I'm eating better. I'm into natural health. I'm into all this great stuff. Let me burn my scented candles. I'm having my friends over. We're going to have a great dinner. They got the fake logs burning. They're loaded with perfume, which is all that toxic metal and everything else. And then they're burning scented candles. And then they got the worst conventional detergents, petrochemicals, and solvents all in it. And they're just one big stink bomb. Getting into sinuses, getting into the bloodstream. Yeah. And that stuff just, boom, it just sits inside our liver and it torments us too, which could be a trigger as well. So I'm going into, like, say you're struggling and you're suffering in some way. Depression, anxiety, depersonalization, deep sadness you can't explain, ups and downs, anger and frustration, sadness, said it already. And then maybe even something more serious, like you got some manic stuff going on, some mania, you got some serious OCD, you got some serious brain fog, you got the bipolar diagnosis or something that someone might have given you, and you're doing all that, and then it can get triggered. You're already struggling, you already have something going on inside the brain itself, and I'm going to go into something what happens when these two start to meld together. Right here, the ghost, your soul, your spirit, whatever you want to call it, and your physical brain. And then you got all these things going on, and then boom, you get triggered by solvents and petrochemicals and laundry detergents and plugins and scented candles and and colognes and perfumes, and it gets into the bloodstream fast because these are solvents. They go through the brain, they go through the body into the organs, and then they go and they touch sensitive brain tissue. That's what they do. They touch sensitive brain tissue. Okay? So you got your brain, right? And in your brain is all this sensitive tissue when you're sick and you don't feel good. When you're sick and you don't feel good, okay? You got all this sensitive tissue gets triggered really easy. It does. So much so that you can get triggered emotionally really easy too, because physically you're struggling inside because you got physical stuff happening. You got petrochemicals, you got all the different fragrances in here, you got the MSG in here, you got a buildup of the toxic salts. If I hear one more time somebody in health try to recycle the same old BS and pretend it's new, quality salts. You need plenty of fats, plenty of quality salts. Stay away from this, stay away from that, right? The good fish oil, do the krill oil, don't do the fish oil. If I hear that one more time, that same old spiel out there, the same old shtick, right? When people don't even realize why people are sick or what's going on in there. The reason why you'll see medical medium doesn't obsess about salt. Make sure you have all the salt in your water. Make sure you put salt in your water. Make sure you put salt on your food. Good salts are good. They're supportive for this. They're supportive of that. The reason why you don't hear that is the Spirit of Compassion says too much salt builds up in the brain and it crystallizes. It crystallizes inside the brain because it's got nowhere to go. Because you're not peeing it out in time. It's built. More salt is coming in than going out. More salt is coming in than going out. You can still get a blood test and be low on sodium in your bloodstream and have salt deposits inside the brain that are crystallized and no longer are they liquefying. People have MSG deposits, they have salt deposits, they have calcium deposits from being so acidic all the time. Then they have toxic heavy metals, then they have all the fragrances and chemicals. They got all of that inside their brain. And it's making them feel like they're crazy when they're not. It's making them feel like they're losing their mind when they're not. They're struggling physically. It's not their fault. They didn't cause it. They didn't create it. And then they get triggered. Triggered easily. But what happens is, Anna says over there on YouTube, what should you do if you have to work in that environment? Well, that's what I love about medical medium information, okay? Go to the library, get a book out of the library, get a medical medium book, okay? All right? Medical medium doesn't sell anything. It's the books you can get free in the library. Okay? There's no subscription fees on my website. We can't avoid everything. We're going to have to live with it. We're going to have to live with something. Some fragrance or something or some cologne. Something's going to happen in our life. Somebody around us. We're going to have to be in work environment, and that's when we take care of ourselves. We get the metals out. We get the chemicals out. We learn how to do it through the information that SOC has given us, and we learn how to get that out, and we get our lives back. We take control of our lives so that when we walk into an area that has all of that, we're strong. We walk into an area, we don't get triggered anymore. We move forward and we heal. Salt is overdone in foods. It's not that I don't like salt to some degree. I'm not anti-sodium. Look at the celery juice. I've been screaming celery juice over and over and over and over again. I'm not anti-salt. Can use a little bit here and there. You just don't want to rely on it because it's overdone. People pile it on. Leafy greens have sodium content in it. All the herbs, leafy green herbs, cilantro, parsley, right? Kale, spinach especially, they all have sodium in them, right? Tomatoes got sodium in them. Lemons got sodium in them, right? But I'm talking about like restaurant food and packaged foods is so oversalted and we get so used to that salt. You've heard that. You get so used to it, you're acclimating to that salt. And then what happens is you're dumping so much salt in, you don't even realize how much salt's going in, and it never stops because you're so used to it every day, and that builds up and crystallizes. A lot of people need breaks from salt so they can also do some healing. All right. The problem is you're struggling emotionally because you're struggling physically. Your soul is being challenged in a brain that's being challenged. You're being challenged physically in your brain. You're being challenged emotionally in your brain through your soul because that's being challenged and you're struggling. You're struggling. And it becomes a vicious cycle, and a vicious circle is what it becomes, and it's hard to break out of it, and it just seems to just get tougher and tougher and tougher and tougher. And the circle and the cycle doesn't get broken easy. It's back to suffering and struggling and feeling a little better, back to it again, and no one realizes we got to get the brain, the physical brain, in a better place. Yes, we need to take care of our soul, our spirit, our what people call our spirit. We need to take care of it. We do. And we need to reach out for help. And we need people helping us. And we need to try to understand ourselves. But we have to not beat ourselves up. I see it out there all the time when people are struggling. It's important to know it's not your fault that your brain has all this stuff I just talked about in it. And it's not your fault that we're also up against so much here on planet Earth where our soul gets knocked out of us. But when our soul is in our brain and they're both living there and our brain is struggling, we end up getting like OCD more and allergic more and hypersensitive more, and we end up struggling more because we don't understand why aren't we better? Yeah. There's so much information here. Check out Brain Saver, you guys. Just making the announcements one more time real quick. Okay. First things first, I released a new podcast episode, Microdosing. Yep. Psychedelics, so forth. Microdosing. Medical Meme Podcast at Apple Podcast. Check it out. Link is in the profile. Link is in the description. Another announcement. I was on Nicole Lappin's podcast, Money Rehab. It's a great episode. Link's in the profile. Link is in the bio, right? In the description. And then third and last but not least, go to my Telegram if you can. If you've been harmed by the false stories for 4 years now, if you've been harmed by the lies and the false stories and everything else, okay? Check out Telegram. I'm putting out some information out there that you actually, to whom it may concern, it might be really helpful for you to know. Because I'm putting out the truth. I'm putting out the facts and the evidence that's not hidden like they're doing. Check it out when you get a chance. If you're not into that because you're fine, everything's good, you still might want to check it out so you know what's going on. All right. And check out Heal with Amber when you get a chance on IG at Heal with Amber, HEALWITH, Amber, AMBER. She's fighting for the community all the time, always has, and she cares greatly about the community and the people here in the medical meme community and their struggles and what they go through. And she's working on setting the record straight out there. So check her out too on IG if you can. Tell other people about her because she's looking out for everybody. Anyway, you guys, amazing. Want to give everybody a rundown on the brain a little bit. Cover some of this. You know that I care. And I want you guys to pat yourselves on the back. Have compassion for yourself. Be easy on yourself. And know that you're good. And it's not your fault if you're struggling in any way. You guys know I love you much.